If you're new to the project, a big warm welcome. If you're a tough old root, then welcome back. Today's video is even more pallet tower walls. It's taking long enough to construct this because of just the inherent difficulty in the thing that it's really this, or it's put out this video or not put out a video at this point. So hey, just more walls, right? Come along with us as we build this outlandish, quasi-ridiculous structure out of used pallets. So as you can see, the assembly is really simple. In a perfect world, I'd use only screws, right? That's my thing. But since it's probably going to end up this structure getting wet before I get the roof on, we're going with predominantly nails. So either way, the point of the deal is take your pallet and put it into place. All of our pre-cut pieces were pre-cut. I did all the math beforehand, and if you guys want those numbers, I can give them to you at a separate time. But either way, you know, these little small pallets here, you can see how they progressively get lower as you go from the left to the right. That is because the left side, or y'all's right, my left, y'all's right, this one is the tallest point and this one is the lowest. So that's why these offset pieces get progressively smaller. But the idea is you just fit the pallets in, right? I mean, it's super duper simple. It's like building a block wall, except you're using pallets and nails and screws. So that's what we are going to do. This pallet right here, as you saw, I had to take my crowbar and actually pry the two pieces apart slightly to get it to fit. That's because every pallet is slightly different sized, but we're just going to go with it. Also, as I went through all of our pallets and I was trimming them so they would all fit together, there was no overlapping pieces as far as the flatboard. I also went and I labeled with an L all the ones that felt a little bit lighter. So we're going to use those for the higher up points. But yeah, basically, we're going to go with these three walls for quite a while until I get the doorway cut in. And then we're going to put this front wall on, and then, you know, all the pallets we brought in through the front door. So go ahead and grab your drink or something, and come on, we're gonna assemble a pallet tower. Before we can put the next pallet on this particular section here, we need to go ahead and attach our wall extension. The only important deal about this is that it does not overlap, or it does not equal any other seams, that it overlaps each of the seams. So this next pallet will be a full 54 inches. And we have 26 inches of this pallet here. So this is a 4 foot or 48 inch piece of board. So it does not line up with either one of those two seams. Basically the same as everything else, right? We're just gonna attach this to this pallet so we can put another one here, and thereby extending our wall 1 1/4 inch. So I went ahead and finished attaching this pallet last night after dark with a headlamp. One of my most #1 used tools, headlamp. It is definitely worth it. But two things. One, it rained, obviously. I guess I should say that first. These pallets did not appear to get wet at all. Very, very happy with that. The plastic did its job. However, it's not a perfect solution. Speaking of non-perfect solutions, it's my little hobbit broom. So either way, the pallets are still in good condition. We are going to continue building today. Just first, we got to sweep off all this wetness. All right, I think that's about as good as it's going to get. What are you doing, cat? Squeak, what are you doing, man? Now that we got this one 2 pallets high, it's time to insert yet another lamination. This is another pallet board. We're just gonna slide him in, bring him down, seat him against that first little piece that we put before we set the walls up, nail these together, and hey, there we go. We'll have another board inside of our structure. It'll also help with building our second and or third levels. We're not 100% sure whether we're gonna go with 2 full levels or 1 full level and 2 halves. But either way, having these with these cutouts right here, you know, you can't really attach a facing board on it to then hang a second story off of. So this will not only add linear strength, but it'll give us a place to attach our second level. So either way, we just slide him in. Bring him down. Right there. All right, we'll attach him and keep on going. So halfway through the deal, I've decided to take apart this corner of the house because I'm not happy with it. What we had originally done, which you have seen if you've watched the videos, we had a small piece right here attached to this pallet board, which is only there to extend the structure a certain amount of space to where it'll match up with the floor. And then we had a second bigger piece right here. That got rid of this gap here where this board is out and this board's in. This little gap right here, that eliminated it. But I'm not having a lot of success with being happy with how I'm attaching this wall to this wall, mainly because of these cutouts right here. These cutouts right here, I don't have anything this long to span this distance. So what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and just leave the wall like this. You know, we're not going to change anything other than these facing boards right here. And the way that we're going to change them is we'll continue on and we're going to toenail in, do our best to connect, you know, this section and this section to the pallet beside it. And then we're going to take some larger pallet boards like this and put them up like here and just put nails down this side and nails down that side. So we have a solid piece, yet another way to fasten this pallet to this pallet. In a perfect world, as far as like absolute structural strength wise, you'd want this going the other direction so the grain is opposite. But I don't have enough time to do that, so we're just going to go ahead and go with the grain of the board and attach them like this. I'm going to give you guys an idea of what I mean by inside lamination. I did have to take and shave this board down just slightly where it would fit. Not all pallet boards are created equal. But we got a little piece here. I've cut him to where he will line up to where I want him to go. See, put him that way. And we're going to slide him down inside of the actual pallet and connect it to that first little bit of lamination we put at the very beginning as we were building our walls. Now I will put, the first thing I'll do is put a couple screws at an angle in a downward fashion. That'll help, press this board down, connecting it to the one below it. And it'll also press the two boards together, turning this into a laminated stud, because this board and the board below it are not mated in any other fashion other than this little piece of pallet board right here. So another thing that I'm doing to these pallets prior to installation is I'm checking the squareness of them, right? You'll look here. This middle board is sticking out some, which means on the other side, it's going to be caved in. It will be lower than the other two. So instead of trying to make these middle boards flush and chase gaps everywhere, we're just going to go ahead and take our pull saw here. Thank you, Ben. Our pull saw here, and just trim off a little sliver. That way when we put it into place, we know we won't have to worry about it, about chasing gaps then. Let's just go ahead and admit defeat, have a little gap here, knowing that we're gonna put another lamination on it. And yeah, so that makes it quicker and that makes it easier. So either way, for complicated reasons based on the pallet itself, the condition, and the placement, I've decided this is gonna be the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim this off so we can get him placed in position. You got to get creative if you're going to work with pallets. crooked dang pallet. So not all boards, especially pallet boards, are created equal. So we went ahead and ripped this one down to make him a little bit smaller, to slide him in. There is no industry standard for pallets. They're a throwaway item, or at least, I guess there are standards, but they're not the Swanson standards. So either way, rip it first just to make it easy. As these pallets age, the boards can warp. I mean, just because on paper, this board here is the same thickness as this one, depending on weather conditions or warpage, doesn't mean that it'll fit. So either way, we're gonna slide him in and do our, you know, our lamination here. There we go. Aha. So this board, this center board right here on this top pallet is about a 1/4 inch over on the bottom pallet. That's why we have so many clamps. Yeah, I mean, it makes a difference. It is worth it. In the grand scheme if you're going to put this deal on YouTube. But there will still be a gap there. We're just making it slightly less. I mean, this board right here, we can form him. Right, he can sort of bend over that difference and span the gap at least a little bit better than it would otherwise. So I'm gonna put y'all back on time lapse and you know, get to clamping. Yep, it's definitely it. I had to get creative with the string earlier. Who'd have ever thought on a build site, one out of pallets up here in the middle of the woods steep in the woods, that you'd have 12 different hammers, a couple coils of rope, bunch of clamps, screws, nails. I mean, the #1 hammer, my dang blacksmith hammer. So far, that's the best one to use. It's not even supposed to drive in nails. But we're having to get creative with all these different variables that we're dealing with. So either way, yep, building a house out of pallet, boys. Or a room. This isn't a house. We actually had someone ask us, how are you gonna live in this? And my honest answer was, we're not. This isn't a house, this is a room. This is just the first room of a house. We gotta build it in pieces. So either way, it's not a pallet house yet. It's a pallet tower, right? Wizard tower. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little angle support here. This is just junk pallet wood. It's not supposed to be permanent. In order for this wall to have the strength that I want it to, prior to putting up this one, see, we need a door. We need an entrance. Right now I'm just going through this area because there's not a wall here. I really need to put the wall here, but in order to do that, I need to cut in the door. And right now, cutting in the door, there's just not enough pallet, enough material around it to where I think that this piece here and the adjacent piece are not going to be just incredibly flimsy. So The deal is I'm putting this angle support on so that I can attempt to get one more pallet on top of the door frame. That will sort of glue them together, hold them together, hopefully well enough for the thing to stay up while I put up this wall here. So either way, attaching him, there's no rhyme or a reason to it. You know, just grab you a junk piece of wood, put it at, 45-degree angle, screw it in, and then we'll attempt to lift one of these incredibly heavy pallets into place above the door. All right, so I ran into another issue, right? Issues everywhere. That pallet there, the one that I'm trying to sit this one physically on top of, the middle runner, the middle board in it is much taller than the other two, so it's teetering back and forth. I'm not able to get it physically seated. So I'm gonna have to climb up there with my saw, trim that one, and then we'll give this another shot. So as you can probably tell, that was a nightmare. Now I know, I have learned that I've learned so much during this build, because I've never built any structures out of pallets before, not pallets in their original state. I've taken apart pallets and built, but never used the actual pallet itself. But either way, that one is in place. I now know to try to avoid that specific scenario of trying to fit a pallet in the middle of two. But yes, we actually have one more pallet to go in height. This is going to be a very, very tall house. Now, we've just got to attach that pallet to the ones beside it. We'll put up the wall right here, and we'll cut our door. Well, it started to snow here. As we're progressing into evening, it is getting colder. The idea is to take our Sawzall here and cut out our door. I'm not going to try to make these straight, flush, pretty lines. They're all going to be crooked. And then we'll go back with a hand saw and make them flush and do them correctly. So either way, we're just gonna cut on this side, cut on that side. We got very lucky with our pallets. This half pallet and this whole pallet together are almost perfect size for making a door once we do our inside framing. So either way, here we go, cutting out the door. And there we go. Hey, welcome to the Steep in the Woods Pallet Tower. With a door now. Yeah, see, it is almost perfect. Almost perfect, right? I mean, it may be a little bit short once I put our, our framing in it, but the width is great. The width is perfect. I mean, it's short enough, or it's tall enough for me to get in and out without having to duck. Yeah. I am glad I put this second pallet on here first though. This has been very, very wiggly. But if you've ever built something, right, anything at all, even if you built it with like 2x4s, specifically if you built it with 2x4s, you know how wiggly your structure is until you put on your sheeting. So the fact that this wiggles, not an issue, nothing. That's, if this was made out of 2x4s, it'd be doing that even more. So, rock and roll. It's getting kind of dark now. I'm still gonna try to get this wall put up. I guess I'll film putting it in place, and then I'll just do all the finicky driving the nails part off of camera. I've actually got a couple pieces of rebar that I will use to drive nails down because I can't hardly fit my hand inside of the pallet to hammer, the baseboard to the floor. So it's a fiddly bit. Might as well just do that off of camera. But I'm very happy with our door. I'm happy that we get to put the wall on, and it'll actually be a square. Finally. Took me like 6 months, man. I also timed everything. I was really obsessed. Where's my other glove? I need my other glove. I was really obsessed with trying to get the best weather possible, just for it to rain the whole darn time. But whatever. Yes. And that's why I couldn't build this like a traditional house. Building the walls flat and then standing them up, it just never worked. It never worked. God, that's heavy. All right. Step one for me is always try to hammer it into place. Nope. All right, get the clamp. Rock and roll. There we go, boys. Look, it's done. It's a house. Man, we're gonna move in now. I wish I'd have picked a prettier pallet to put right in the darn front. When I picked all these pallets, I went with what was the most structural for wherever it was going. So that pallet was one of the best structural strength pallets that we had, but it's ugly. Whatever. Can't fix everything. All right, that is it for today's filming. All I'm going to do off of camera is just put a couple nails and a couple screws in it. Honestly, I've purposely not been showing all of that, not only because of boredom, but because everybody has their own means and their own methods, right? However many nails that I put in a thing is my own choice. That is your own choice. I will tell you that it's a lot. It's a lot. I put a lot of nails in it. But I pre-drill holes, so they're all structural, they're all fine. The wood's none the worse for it. But yeah, I put a lot of nails in them. I don't know what this board right here was made out of, but it was the hardest board in the whole world. All of this is oak, but this is something special. This is ironwood, muscle wood, or something. I wasted so many nails trying to attach this board to this one right here. At this point, if I could change something halfway through the deal, I would buy bolts. Doesn't have to be big, thick bolts, but if you're going to use oak pallets, just get bolts, right? Drill your holes, put your bolt and your nut, and attach it that way. I may try to put some on the Amazon wish list. That way I can come back and just put them in strategic points. But either way, if you were to be me and build a house out of this particular wood, use bolts, not nails. I was not happy with how that pallet fit. It was slightly too big. I did measure and I thought it would be fine, but it just wasn't. So just because you put a pallet in place doesn't mean it stays there. You try to do all the measurement that you can beforehand, but sometimes it just don't work, right? Even though you measured it and it should have worked, it just didn't, because there's variation in every single pallet. So I've pulled him back out. We're gonna find another one to go there. I did measure all of our other places that we can put pallets next, and there's one in the opposite corner that looks like it would be at least a closer fit. That pallet's just slightly too big. It's just kind of a big pallet. 1/4 inch may not sound like much, but there's not a lot of flexibility in these pallets. So if it doesn't fit, it just doesn't fit. Something's gonna have to move. So when I put it here, this wall right there was bowed out. And I could have taken our clamps, you know, the ratchets, and have compressed those together, but I just didn't like it. So either way, pull that one out, do something else. So that's it, right? It really boils down to nails, nails, and more nails. In a perfect world, I'd use screws, but I can't do that and be comfortable with it in this particular scenario where it's taking long enough to build that I cannot protect it from the weather. These are getting wet, so the wood is expanding and contracting with the humidity in the air. So nails, nails, and more nails. It is very difficult. This is a new thing for me. This whole deal is new to me. I've built everything you can imagine, but I've never built a structure this large using only boards that are 54 inches or less in length. Yes, we did buy about a dozen boards from Lowe's for very key places. Really key places, or places where it would be very difficult to lift a much heavier board. You could replace any of the store-bought boards with pallet boards, but they will be much, much heavier. Not only the weight of the nails in laminating it out of smaller pieces, but also every single board is double thick, because that's what lamination is. You're taking two and creating one. So other than that, no board is longer than 54 inches, which is created an interesting challenge for me here. I really thought that I could not be challenged in a building scenario at this point in my life, but by God, we are doing it. So either way, buckle up, prepare yourself for more videos. I'm actually about to work on the second story, or the second floor, the second level. And always remember, if you liked what you saw, hit that button. If you're new to the project, hit that other button. You know, support the project. There are links below. Until next time, here, Steve in the Woods.
That was way too long.
That was way too long? Oh my God, I gotta do one shorter?
Yep, a little bit short.
I gotta make one shorter. Okay, all right, give me a second. Let me think about how I can say that shorter. All right. So as you saw, it's just a matter of putting our pallets in place and using screws and nails to hold them together. Each pallet is slightly different size. That's why I had to use my crowbar to negotiate that one into place. But either way, that's the whole deal. Kind of building it like you would a block wall. Was that short enough? Yeah. Everybody's an expert, huh?